This is the operating system that is in everyone's mouth when recommending where to start your Linux journey. It has gained a reputation of being the ultimate newbie-friendly distribution, and I believe for good reason.
When it comes to choosing a Linux distribution for your new operating system, Linux Mint is usually one of the most common ones to be recommended to you.
To say that Linux Mint is a popular distribution of Linux, well, that would be an understatement. It's extremely popular, and with good reason. It's easy to use, everything works out of the box. It's no wonder why people love it so much.
February 2026. The World Economic Forum. 2,800 of the most powerful people on the planet sitting in one room. Bill Gates is on stage, mid-sentence, talking about how technology empowers people. Then it happens. A Windows 11 restart countdown appears live on the giant projection screen behind him. He sees it. He tries to click it away. Once, twice. Nothing. The clock keeps moving. The co-founder of Microsoft, the man who built Windows from nothing, standing there completely powerless against his own operating system. The room goes dead silent. That clip hit 47 million views in hours. By the weekend, 120 million. And here is the thing. That was not a glitch. That was Windows 11 working exactly the way Microsoft designed it to work. And millions of people watching that clip thought the exact same thing. That happens to me every single day. Now here is where the story gets real. In September 2025, a Linux distribution called Linux Mint had 4 million users. By March 2026, that number hit 87 million. That is a 22 times increase in just 6 months. Not years. Not a decade. 6 months. The monthly downloads tell the full story. September 2025 recorded 380,000 download. October jumped to 1.2 million. November hit 3.8 million. December reached 8.4 million. January 2026 landed at 14.7 million. February closed at 18.3 million. That is 600,000 people installing Linux Mint every single day. For comparison, Ubuntu, the most recognized Linux distribution in the world, recorded 17.3 million downloads across the entire year of 2025. Linux Mint beat that number in a single month. Their servers physically crashed in January from the traffic. Emergency CDN capacity had to be added overnight. But none of this happened randomly. Microsoft pushed people out the door one bad decision at a time. In January 2026, Microsoft pushed Update KB 50744109 to every Windows 11 machine on the planet. Within days, computers could not boot. Black screens. File Explorer broken. Outlook crashing. Microsoft released 2 emergency patches. Neither fixed it. Their official solution was to tell users to manually uninstall the update themselves. Then February came. Update KB 5SM7181 killed audio on gaming laptops and sent NVIDIA GPU systems into instability. Some users had to completely wipe their SSD and start over. Then the March update KB 5079473 broke Microsoft account sign-ins. Teams stopped working. OneDrive went down. The very services Microsoft had spent years forcing people to depend on, completely inaccessible. 3 consecutive months. 3 disasters. All caused by updates users had zero ability to refuse. Then there was the moment that broke millions of people at once. A post on Reddit got 340,000 upvote. A user was 11 hours into a 12-hour 4K video render. Windows 11 decided it was update time. The machine restarted. 11 hours of work gone. He installed Linux Mint that night. The comments filled with thousands of identical stories. Medical professionals losing patient data. Students losing thesis work. Freelancers losing billable hours. Then add Copilot, which one developer disabled 9 times through 9 different settings menus. Every update re-enabled it. He switched to Linux and said his productivity doubled overnight. Then Microsoft made it impossible to set up a laptop without a Microsoft account. One father spent 4 hours trying to find a workaround for his 13-year-old daughter's new laptop. Every method had been patched. He returned the laptop. That is the moment millions of ordinary people started searching for something else. What they found was Linux Mint. And the reason Linux Mint specifically, not Ubuntu, not Fedora, not Arch, is one simple thing. Linux Mint looks exactly like Windows 7. The Cinnamon desktop environment was built deliberately to replicate the Windows 7 layout with precision. Start menu bottom left. Taskbar across the bottom. Alt plus tab switching that works identically. File manager with the familiar left sidebar. Side-by-side screenshots of Windows 7 and Linux Mint are nearly impossible to tell apart. And that matters because Windows 7 had a 67% user satisfaction rating. Windows 8 dropped to 23%. Windows 10 recovered to 41%. Windows 11 sits at 28%, lower than Windows 8 at its most hated. Microsoft has been losing the satisfaction argument for over a decade. Linux Mint gave people the Windows that Microsoft refused to give them. The real stories prove this better than any number. Jennifer Morrison, small business owner in Ohio, held on to Windows 7 until Microsoft ended support. Tried Windows 10, hated it. Tried Windows 11, hated it more. Installed Linux Mint and posted on a forum that she cried because her computer felt familiar again. Marcus Zhang, IT administrator in Singapore, managed 340 Windows 11 computers. Constant broken updates, overwhelmed support tickets, frustrated users. He migrated his entire organization to Linux Mint over 3 weeks. Support tickets dropped 81%. His users said their computers finally work right again. Sarah O'Connor, 71 years old, retired, living in Ireland, used Windows 7 for years, forced to Windows 10, spent months feeling lost on her own computer. Her grandson installed Linux Mint last Christmas. She said she can use her computer again without feeling stupid. Priya Sharma, teacher in India, had 180 school computers from 2018 that Windows 11 refused to install on because of missing TPM 2.0. Microsoft's answer was buy new hardware. Her school did not have $18,000 for that. She installed Linux Mint on all 180 machines. Students noticed no difference. Teachers adapted in days. And what was Satya Nadella's response to all of this? On the February 2026 earnings call, an analyst asked him directly about Linux Mint reaching 87 million users. His answer was essentially, users preferring different approaches have many options. That is it. No plan. No acknowledgement. Just acceptance of the losses. Meanwhile, Microsoft's stock dropped 25% in a single quarter, falling 36% from its recent highs. Windows market share was at 73% in 2023. Today it sits at 63.8% and falling. Linux desktop usage doubled in 1 year from 3.1% to 7.9%. Microsoft spent $146 billion on AI infrastructure in 2025 alone. And only 3% of Microsoft 365 users actually paid for Copilot. That is not a marketing problem. That is a product problem. Bill Gates reportedly walked into that boardroom, looked at Satya Nadella, and said, "You have spent 4 years destroying what I spent 25 years building." By June 2026, Linux Mint is projected to cross 150 million active users. That would place it above Mac OS, estimated at 140 million users globally. 87 million people already voted with their computers. The revolt is real. The momentum is building. And Microsoft has no answer. Bill Gates just watched $357 billion disappear from Microsoft's market value in a single day. Not over a week. Not over a month. 1 day. February 12, 2026. And right at that exact moment, Elon Musk quietly trademarked a company called MacroHard. Yes, that is a direct troll aimed at Microsoft. And no, it is not a joke. Let's talk about what is actually happening inside Microsoft right now because the numbers are brutal. Microsoft spent $80 billion on AI data centers in fiscal year 2025 alone. More than half of that went into the United States. On top of that, they poured over $13 billion into OpenAI. This was supposed to be the biggest bet in tech history. The product they built with all that money was called Copilot. And out of 450 million Microsoft 365 users, only 15 million actually paid for it. That is a 3% adoption rate. They spent $80 billion and 97% of their own customers said no thank you. Revenue from Copilot came in at $2.9 billion annually, while OpenAI's quarterly losses alone were sitting at $3.1 billion. The math does not work. It never worked. Then look at Windows 11. Its market share is stuck at 28.4%. Meanwhile, Windows 10, a product Microsoft officially killed support for, still runs on 58.7% of machines. People are choosing a dead operating system over the new one. And the reason is simple. Windows 11 had 11,791 security vulnerabilities in 2025. That is an 845% increase from 2024. Updates were breaking internet connections completely. Black screens on boot. Emergency patches fixing damage caused by previous emergency patches. The core product was falling apart while Microsoft was busy stuffing Copilot buttons into Notepad and Paint. Users started calling it Microslop. It exploded across Reddit, Twitter, Discord, and YouTube comment sections. So what did Microsoft do? They launched an official Copilot Discord server to build goodwill. Within days, users flooded it with the word Microslop. So Microsoft banned the word. A trillion-dollar company banned a word from its own community server. Then they disabled message history entirely so people could not scroll back and see how badly it had spiraled. Every tech outlet in the world covered it. The mockery reached audiences that had never even heard the original complaint. Microsoft handed the criticism a megaphone by trying to silence it. Inside Microsoft, things were even worse. Executives had instructed thousands of engineers to test both GitHub Copilot and Anthropic's Claude models. This was supposed to prove Copilot was the best tool available. Instead, many engineers were quietly paying for ChatGPT out of their own pocket. ChatGPT scored 97% for ease of use. Copilot scored 86%. The people building Microsoft products did not want to use Microsoft's flagship AI. Sales reps were hitting less than 20% of their AI quotas. So leadership slashed targets by 50%. Even Fortune 500 adoption was an illusion. Microsoft boasted 70% of Fortune 500 companies had adopted Copilot. The reality? Only 6% had fully deployed it. 72% were stuck in limited pilot. Almost half of provisioned users abandoned it completely. Now here is where Elon Musk walks in. Back in July 2025, Musk publicly said he wanted to build a multi-agent AI software company. Nobody took it too seriously. Then a tweet from Ashok Elaswamy, a key Tesla AI engineer, hinted at something called Digital Optimus AI. The internet connected the dots. Then on August 22, Musk announced MacroHard on X. He said, and this is a direct quote, "It's a tongue-in-cheek name, but the project is very real." XAI, which is Musk's existing AI company, filed a trademark for MacroHard with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. The application covers AI tools that generate speech and text, chatbot software, and systems that could replace entire teams of human programmers. Here is what MacroHard actually is. Musk's argument is simple. Companies like Microsoft do not make hardware. Their output is purely digital. Software, documents, code, presentations. If AI gets good enough, it can do all of that without a single human employee. AI writes the code. AI manages the project. AI tests the product. AI ships the update. Musk called it the emulation of entire human companies. The system runs on two layers. Digital Optimus is the fast reflexive layer, the part that processes real-time screen data and takes action immediately. It runs on Tesla's AI4 chip, which costs around $650. Grok, xAI's reasoning model, is the slow thinking layer. It plans, reasons, and handles complex decisions, running frugally on NVIDIA hardware and only kicking in when needed. Think of it like full self-driving but for software work instead of road. Musk has the pieces no one else has. Tesla generates real-world data at a scale nobody can match. Starlink provides global connectivity infrastructure. X is being built into an everything app covering payments, communication, and content. xAI is producing the reasoning models tying it all together. If MacroHard delivers what Musk is describing, a user could simply say build me a market analysis report and the system gathers data, builds the spreadsheet, generates the charts, and creates the presentation automatically without touching Word, Excel, or PowerPoint once. That is the nightmare scenario for Bill Gates. He built an empire on those three products: Windows, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. They became so embedded in offices, schools, and governments that people could not function without them.
You are not a Microsoft slave. You own your device. Take your freedom back. Dump Windows, otherwise it will own you.
Absolutely. There are a ton of these investments that will be dead ends.
That we're going to leave. We're going to stop supporting Windows.
Nearly 1 billion people are still running Windows 10 right now, and Microsoft has absolutely no answer for it. Not a plan, not a fix, not even an apology. Just silence. And while Microsoft sits quiet, Zorin OS just hit 2 million downloads in 3 months. The majority from people who were done waiting. This is not a tech story anymore. This is a revolt. And today you are going to understand exactly why it happened, who started it, and why Bill Gates himself should be furious at what his own company has become. Gates built Microsoft on one promise: a computer on every desk and in every home. Not every approved desk. Not every verified home. Every single one. That promise turned a small software company into the most dominant technology corporation on the planet. Windows became the default. For decades nobody questioned it. You bought a computer, it ran Windows, and that was just the way the world worked. But the people running Microsoft today took that loyalty, that trust built over 30 years, and they burned it. Deliberately. Systematically. One bad decision at a time. It started with Windows 11 and the TPM 2.0 requirement. Microsoft looked at 240 million perfectly functional computers, machines that browse the internet fine, run spreadsheets fine, do everything their owners need, and declared them incompatible. Not broken. Not slow. Incompatible by a rule Microsoft wrote to benefit its hardware partners. Analysts at Connolly's confirmed the number. 240 million PCs pushed toward the trash. If you stacked those machines as folded laptops, the pile would reach 600 kilometers higher than the moon. And while this was happening, Microsoft was publishing sustainability reports and talking about carbon neutrality. That contradiction is not ironic. It is embarrassing. Then came the forced Microsoft account. Your own computer, hardware you paid for, now requires Microsoft's permission to operate. The local account option, something Windows users had for decades, got buried behind gray menus, extra screens, and deliberate friction. When people found workarounds, Microsoft patched them out. The bypass NRO command gone. MSCXH local only gone. Then they went after Rufus, the free open-source tool used by millions of IT professionals and system administrators to create clean bootable installs. Google Fiber users blocked. NTT users in Japan blocked. Deutsche Telekom users in Germany blocked. Pete Battard, the developer who built Rufus, stated publicly this was not a mistake. Blocking scripted requests while allowing browser downloads requires specific configuration. That is a deliberate policy decision made by someone inside Microsoft. And why? Because every user forced through a Microsoft account during setup becomes a Microsoft 365 subscriber target, a OneDrive storage customer, an advertising metric. Microsoft now serves ads inside Windows 11, inside the Start menu, inside File Explorer, inside the lock screen. You paid for the hardware. Microsoft is still selling you things on it. That is not a design choice. That is a monetization strategy running on top of an operating system you already own. Then came Copilot and Recall. Recall takes a screenshot of your screen every 5 seconds, analyzes it with AI, and stores everything in a searchable database on your hard drive. Passwords, encrypted messages, financial documents, everything visible on screen captured and indexed automatically. Cybersecurity expert Jeff Pard called it a risk in its entirety. The backlash was so severe Microsoft had to pause the rollout. But the damage was already done. Users had seen what Microsoft actually wanted: complete visibility into everything you do on your own machine. Dell's chief operating officer Jeffrey Clark dropped a number during an earnings call that should have sent shockwaves through Redmond. 500 million computers that fully meet Windows 11 requirements, correct chip, correct CPU, everything, and their owners still refuse to upgrade. They looked at everything Windows 11 demands and said no. They decided running unsupported software with no security patches was safer than handing Microsoft that level of access. When users willingly accept a security risk to avoid your product, you have lost something that cannot be recovered with a marketing campaign. October 14, 2025. Windows 10 support officially ends. Microsoft shuts the door on hundreds of millions of users. 5 weeks later, Zorin OS 18 launches. In the first month alone, 780,000 downloads came directly from Windows devices. 78% of all downloads traced back to Windows PCs. People were not curious. They were migrating. By January 2026, that number crossed 2 million. One distribution. One option among hundreds. 2 million people chose it specifically to escape Microsoft. Zorin OS runs on every machine Windows 11 rejected. No TPM 2.0 requirement. No hardware gatekeeping. You can take a computer Microsoft declared dead and have Zorin running on it fully within an hour. The taskbar is where you expect it. The Start menu opens the way you remember. Snap layouts work. System tray is in the right corner. Zero ads. No forced account. No Copilot watching your screen. Updates happen when you decide. And underneath all of it runs Ubuntu, meaning every Ubuntu tutorial online works. Hardware support is inherited from one of the most tested bases in existence, and the foundation is rock solid. The broader numbers tell you this is not a fluke. Linux desktop market share hit 4.7% globally in January 2026, up from 2.76% in 2022, a 70% increase in 3.5 years. Steam gaming on Linux hit an all-time high at 3.58% of users with 57 to 64% year-over-year growth. 89.7% of Windows games now run on Linux through Proton. Germany's Schleswig-Holstein is migrating 30,000 government computers off Microsoft entirely. France's National Gendarmerie already runs 103,164 machines on Linux with a 40% reduction in total cost. Windows' total market share dropped 5.5 percentage points in a single year. Microsoft did not lose these users because Linux suddenly became amazing.
Windows 11. Well, Windows 10 was showing an ominous "your computer is no longer supported" message. And while it was asking her to upgrade to Windows 11, as soon as you tried to do that, it showed as not being compatible.
Your computer works perfectly. It runs everything you need, does everything you ask. Then one morning, Microsoft puts a message on your screen. This PC is no longer supported. You click Upgrade to Windows 11. It tells you your machine isn't compatible. You're stuck. You can't go forward and you can't stay where you are without a ticking security clock over your head. That's not a glitch. That's not an accident. That's exactly where Microsoft wants you. Windows 11 launched on October 5, 2021. Microsoft sold it as the biggest Windows redesign in a decade, faster, more secure, built for the future. What they didn't advertise was that more than half of all existing Windows 10 computers couldn't run it. Microsoft's own compatibility checker confirmed it. Over 50% of Windows 10 devices failed the requirement. Not because they were slow, not because they were broken, because they didn't have a TPM 2.0 chip, a security module that only became standard in consumer computers around 2016. If your machine was built before roughly 2018, Microsoft decided it was done. The cutoff is specific: Intel 8th generation processors or newer, AMD Ryzen 2000 series or newer, a 2017 Intel i7, still a capable, powerful chip, doesn't make the cut. Microsoft called it a security requirement. Critics called it artificial obsolescence. And when Windows 10 support officially ended on October 14, 2025, hundreds of millions of users hit a wall. Microsoft does offer a way out, the Extended Security Updates program, but it costs $30 for just the first year. The price rises every year after, it doesn't include new features, and it only runs through October 2028. You're paying to keep breathing on an operating system Microsoft already walked away from. The hardware lock is only the first layer. Windows 11 Home requires a Microsoft account to complete installation. No local account option. No offline setup. You must connect to the internet and hand over a Microsoft email and password before you can use a computer you already own. Windows 11 Pro used to allow local accounts. Microsoft removed that option in version 22H2, released September 2022. Workarounds exist. Tech-savvy users found a command line bypass called ob/bypassnro. Microsoft patched it. Users found another. Microsoft patched that too. It's a deliberate cat and mouse game, and most users don't even know they're playing it. For the average person, using Windows 11 means your login to your own computer is controlled by a corporation. Once you're in, the ecosystem tightens. OneDrive is embedded directly into File Explorer, constantly nudging you to sync your personal folders to Microsoft's cloud servers. Microsoft Edge is set as the default browser, and changing it requires navigating through multiple settings screens that quietly reset after major updates. The Start menu shows recommended apps that are paid promotional placement. The lock screen runs tips and suggestions that function as advertisements. The Widgets panel serves sponsored content. You paid hundreds or thousands of dollars for hardware that runs an operating system that markets products back at you. Microsoft calls it helpful recommendations. Users call it adware baked into something they already bought. Then came recall. Microsoft announced the feature on May 20, 2024 at Build Conference. The idea: recall would take a screenshot of your screen every few seconds, analyze everything with AI, and build a searchable database of your entire computing history. Microsoft framed it as